There's a subject that I don't know if you would call it a delicate subject or not. I guess it depends on your perspective. The subject is Olam Haba. And the reason that it works into the theme of our discussions is, first of all, if a person has a sense of Olam Haba, so then their relationship with the Holocaust is going to be very different as well. But let's look at it. Take a bit of a step back. How central is an awareness of Olam Haba to a Jew in his daily life in our time? And I think that you'll discover that people who have spiritually fulfilling lives, they're learning Torah, they're doing Chesed, they're living in a spiritually meaningful way. They don't think much about Olam Haba. There's an tired old story that there was this Rosh Yeshiva who asked an Avrech if he ever thinks about the Ribono Shel Olam. And he says, Rebbe, he says, I get up very early. I have to get to davening. I have a seder before davening. I go to davening. I take care, and then I run to get the kids to bring them to cheder, and then I have first seder and iyun, and then a musar seder, and then a second seder. Rebbe, I don't have time to think about the Ribono Shel Olam. So the reason, and I get it. I get it. Somebody who has a spiritually fulfilling life doesn't think much about the Ribono Shel Olam, and by extension doesn't necessarily think much about Olam Haba. Then there are those who are spiritually struggling, who are not feeling great about themselves, about their lives, and they're trying to get their material world in order. Those are people whose lives are not wired properly. And so they're trying to get their ducks lined up, and most of their attention and energy is spent trying to get their lives on track or organized, and they don't have time to think about the Ribono Shel Olam or about Olam Haba. So you're dealing with a thought that is more central than any other thought could possibly be. In the terms of the Mesilas Yesharim, it is centralized as being the purpose of one's existence, is to come close to Hashem, to be eternally close to Hashem, and the place for that is Olam Haba. So you have this bit of an irony where the people who in theory should be thinking about Olam Haba don't, and it's left in a rather pathetic place where when there's some sort of loss, Nebuch Rahman al there's a loss, somebody precious passes away, and there's this expression of, oh, they went to a better place. And somehow it's like the consolation prize that if the person's not alive anymore, so they sort of, oh, they went to a better place, without stopping to think about whether they went to Gan Eden or they went to Olam Haba, because it all doesn't matter, because they just went to some sort of better place, and it becomes the consolation prize for people who are no longer alive. And I find it remarkable that this idea doesn't occupy a front and center place in people's consciousness. And if you would remember why it doesn't have such a front and center place. If you would think about how it is that the Yetzer manages to keep this from being in our uh, active consciousness, you would be surprised to find that in Pirkei Avos there is a tremendous amount of discussion about the calculus I refer to as spiritual economics. The spiritual economics described in Pirkei Avos is a constant sense of weighing up the benefits of observing the Torah, refraining from Averos, coming close to Hashem, and the benefits associated with that in eternity versus the cheap thrill associated with avoiding one's responsibilities or dodging a mitzvah, perhaps giving in to an avera, and the benefits that come. There's a huge amount of discussion about this spiritual economy or calculus. And for the amount of centrality that the Pirkei Avos gives to this spiritual economy, it would find ourselves rather surprised that there's not a lot of discussion about it. I want to just mention that somebody would ask, how come the Torah doesn't talk about Olam Haba? I mean, it seems almost glaringly absent from the Torah. And the Maharal has such an interesting answer to the question. He says that the Torah is designed to bring us to shlemus, to our purpose and destiny in Olam Hazeh. It has no role in Olam Haba. And he references the conversation, the dialogue, the debate between Moshe and the angels regarding bringing the Torah down to mankind. The Torah in its pure form is the will of Hashem. It's almost the persona of Hashem written down. And so the angels are attracted to the Torah because of its spiritual essence. But Moshe is able to tell them that the Torah does not have a place. The Torah was written to bring people in this world to a state of fulfillment and accomplishment. And so there is no place for Torah in Olam Haba. And so there could not be a reference to Olam Haba in the Torah, which has no place, which has no role. The shlemus, the accomplishment, the spiritual accomplishment, is all in this world because the spiritual reward is all in the world to come. You can't change anything in the world to come. Everything that you have in the world to come are all assets that you acquired in this world. And so there are no instructions. There are no shoulds and should nots. There are no mitzvos, not positive mitzvos, not negative mitzvos. None of those are relevant in a world of gemul, in a world of compensation. Because the whole purpose of this engagement with Torah, again, not in its pure form that the angels understood, that will exist obviously forever. That's the expression of Hashem's persona. But the idea of there being positive and negative mitzvos has relevance only Ratza Kodesh Baruch Hu Lizakos Es Yisrael. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to be able to give us eternity, and the tool for eternity is the fulfillment of the Torah. And it's, I think, ironic and important to mention that many of the commentaries understand that a human being at his deepest core never wants to receive anything for nothing. And that is such an important principle that the entire world was designed so that we would come to our reward and not feel as though we were getting a handout. We would feel as though we had earned what we received in the world of eternity. That's how deeply entrenched in the human soul is the idea of not being a recipient of getting something for nothing. It's quite ironic that so few people in this world can't stand receiving anything. I mean, it's almost a cultural or a societal malaise to be on the dole, to take whatever from whomever, and to always be getting something for nothing. And the more something for nothing that you get, the more ahead you are. And the more you're claiming entitlement to get some sort of something for nothing. So it's important to recognize that our souls are being ripped into shreds when we are making claim to getting something for nothing. But I just wanted to bring out, and I don't know where this conversation is going to go. I'm opening the conversation in the hopes that I and you will struggle with this going forward. And that is, we have to centralize Olam Haba. And we have to do it in a way that does not lead to what the others do with Olam Haba, the others that turn Olam Haba into an excuse for doing whatever they want in this world, to recognize that this world is the only way to be able to integrate and to get ourselves available and ready for Olam Haba, and to know that emulating Hashem and coming close to Hashem in this world is being stored so that that closeness will be available and will be permanent in the world of eternity. So let's open up the subject. As I said, it has tremendous relevance regarding the issue of the Holocaust. If we, for example, were really connected to the idea of Olam Haba, and somebody were to say to us, you should know that being killed for being a Jew by a government, agents of the king, is a ticket to the world of eternity, we would probably have a little bit of a different perspective on the tragic losses that were involved. So we need to centralize Olam Haba. We need to do it in a way that doesn't lead to some of the nonsense that the Muslim world, for example, just turned it all into nonsense because they distorted completely the purpose of Olam Hazeh in their pursuit of Olam Haba. They became one big death wish. And of course, the Christian world, that Olam Haba is just fine, everything's good, because they can just dole out whatever forgiveness that needs to be doled out, and their Olam Haba is all taken care of. And to be able to recognize that the role that Olam Haba plays in our daily lives is part of the spiritual economy that each of us is meant to be engaged in. And hopefully we'll have a chance to look at some of the examples of the spiritual economy associated with Olam Haba.